Daniel took the apartment in Baltimore, Maryland, because it was cheap and because the landlord asked too few questions. The building sat wedged between a shuttered laundromat and a brick warehouse with boarded windows. Its front steps were cracked, the railings rusted, and the buzzer panel by the door had more scratched-out names than working buttons. Daniel pressed the only one that wasn't broken. The door unlocked immediately, as if someone had been waiting. The landlord didn't give a tour. He unlocked the unit, handed Daniel the keys, and stood in the hallway while Daniel looked around. The apartment was small but clean. Too clean. No dust on the baseboards. No marks on the walls. The air smelled faintly of bleach and something older underneath it, like damp concrete. Why is it so cheap? Daniel asked casually. The landlord shrugged. People don't stay. Daniel laughed. That's every apartment. The landlord didn't laugh back. The first night passed quietly. Daniel unpacked, ordered takeout, and fell asleep on the couch with the TV on. He woke sometime after midnight with a strange sense that something had changed. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closer, the silence heavier. He checked the time. 2:41 a.m. The ticking clock on the wall stopped mid-second. Daniel stared at it, confused. He tapped the clock with his finger. Nothing. He reached for his phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up immediately. 2:41 a.m. That was when he heard the knock. 3 slow taps. Not on the door. On the wall behind the couch. Daniel sat up so fast, he almost dropped his phone. The wall separated his apartment from a neighboring unit, one the landlord had told him was vacant. He waited. Nothing. "Hello," he called, hating how small his voice sounded. The taps came again. Same rhythm. Same spot. Daniel stood and backed away, heart hammering. He pressed his ear to the wall. No voices. No movement. Just a faint hum of the city outside. He slept with the lights on that night. The next morning, Daniel convinced himself it had been pipes. Old buildings made noise. Baltimore had plenty of them. Still, he mentioned it casually when he saw the landlord sweeping the front steps. The man stopped sweeping. "Did it knock back?" he asked. Daniel frowned. "Knock back?" The landlord resumed sweeping. "If it happens again, don't respond." That night, Daniel stayed awake. At 2:40 a.m., the apartment grew cold. Not gradually, suddenly. His breath fogged as he exhaled. The clock ticked down. 2:41. The ticking stopped. 3 knocks. This time they came from the ceiling. Daniel stood, staring upward. The knocks moved, slowly crossing the ceiling like something crawling. They traveled down the wall and stopped beside his bed. A scraping sound followed, soft but deliberate, like fingernails dragging across plaster. "I'm not answering," Daniel whispered. The scraping paused. Then came a single knockback. Hard. Daniel ran. He spent the night in his car, parked across the street under a flickering streetlight, watching the building. At exactly 2:41 a.m., the light in his bedroom turned on. No one was inside. The third night, Daniel tried to leave for good. He packed a bag, loaded his car, and drove toward the highway. Every digital sign along the road flickered as he passed. 2:41, 2:41, 2:41. His GPS recalculated endlessly, looping him through the same streets. By dawn, he was back in front of the building, engine idling, hands shaking. "You can't outrun it," the landlord said from the doorway, as if he'd known Daniel would return. "Only ignore it." Daniel laughed hysterically. "Ignore what?" The landlord's eyes flicked to the wall behind Daniel. "The thing that wants to be heard." That night, Daniel set his phone to record and placed it on the dresser, aimed at the wall. He sat on the bed, lights on, jaw clenched. 2:41 a.m. The apartment went silent. The knocks came immediately, louder now, impatient. The wall began to bulge. Just slightly, as if something on the other side was pressing its face against it. Daniel's phone vibrated. A message appeared on the screen. "Unknown contact. You can hear me, can't you?" "No," Daniel whispered. "I don't." The wall knocked back. Once. Hard enough to crack the plaster. The recording captured everything the wall splitting, the ceiling sagging, and a voice that came from everywhere at once. "Good," it said. "That means you're still early." The video cut off at 2:42 a.m. Daniel didn't remember leaving the apartment. He remembered standing in the hallway surrounded by neighbors he had never seen before. They were barefoot, pale, eyes sunken, all staring at his door. "What is this place?" Daniel asked. A woman near the stairs finally spoke. "It's where it practices." The door to his apartment knocked from the inside. 3 slow taps. The neighbors stepped back in unison. "You shouldn't have recorded it," the woman said. The door opened. The apartment inside was wrong. Larger, deeper. The walls pulsed like lungs. Handprints pressed outward from the plaster. Fingers splayed in panic. Something tall and folded stood at the center of the room. Its face was smooth and unfinished except for a mouth that opened too wide. It knocked once against its chest, then pointed at Daniel. Daniel woke on the sidewalk at sunrise. The apartment was boarded up. His phone lay beside him. The video still played. It showed Daniel stepping inside willingly, smiling. That night, at exactly 2:41 a.m., there was a knock from inside his bedroom. Daniel did not sleep after that night. Every time his eyes closed, he felt the knock not on a wall, not on a door, but inside his chest, slow and deliberate, as if something were testing the strength of his ribs. He left Baltimore the next morning. He didn't pack. He didn't tell anyone. He drove until the city thinned into highways, and then into long stretches of road where the radio lost signal and static filled the car. Still, no matter what station he tuned to, the same sound crept through the noise. Tap, tap, tap. He shut the radio off. The sound continued. It came from behind his left ear. Daniel pulled over hard, tires screeching against gravel. He leaned out of the car and vomited, hands shaking, heart racing. When he straightened, the sound stopped. His phone buzzed. "Unknown contact. You left before I finished." Daniel threw the phone into the ditch and kept driving. By nightfall, he reached a cheap motel outside Pittsburgh, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and doors that opened directly to the parking lot. He paid cash, didn't give his name, and locked himself inside room 217. The room smelled like mildew and old cigarettes. The TV worked only when it wanted to. The walls were thin enough that Daniel could hear the man in the next room coughing through the night. He welcomed the noise. At 2:40 a.m., the coughing stopped. The room grew cold. Daniel sat upright in bed, already crying, already knowing. 2:41. The digital clock blinked and went dark. 3 knocks. This time, they came from the bathroom mirror. Daniel stared as the glass rippled, as if something beneath it were pushing outward. A handprint appeared on the mirror from the inside. Fingers long and wrong, pressing until cracks spiderwebbed across the surface. "Please," Daniel whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't knock back. A voice slid to the room, layered and intimate, like it was being spoken directly into his brain. "You listen." The mirror cracked open like a mouth. Daniel ran. He didn't stop running until sunrise, until his lungs burned and his legs trembled. He collapsed in the parking lot as the motel manager stared at him like he was insane. The mirror in room 217 shattered at 2:42 a.m. Daniel learned quickly that it followed rules, but rules designed to trap, not protect. It could not cross crowds easily, but it could wait. It could not speak clearly at first, but it learned his voice. It could not enter new places immediately, but it could prepare them. Everywhere Daniel went, rooms changed. Walls grew closer. Doors appeared where none had been. Mirrors fogged with fingerprints that weren't his. At exactly 2:41 a.m., the knocking always came. Sometimes from walls. Sometimes from ceilings. Once from inside his own skull. Daniel stopped sleeping indoors. He slept in his car, in parking lots with security lights and cameras. For a while that worked. Then the knocking started coming from the trunk. He drove west. He drove until his reflection looked wrong, until his smile lingered too long in mirrors, until his shadow moved a half-second late. He avoided reflective surfaces. He covered mirrors with towels. He stopped answering his phone altogether. It didn't matter. One night in Denver, Daniel woke up to find a man sitting in the passenger seat of his car. The man looked like him. Same face, same eyes, different posture. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel asked, barely able to breathe. The thing smiled with Daniel's mouth. "You made space for me." The knock echoed once from inside Daniel's chest. He screamed, and the car filled with the sound. When Daniel woke, he was alone, but his reflection smiled at him for the rest of the day. Desperate, Daniel searched online forums, buried threads, and archived post stories no one believed, accounts written by people who stopped posting suddenly. The pattern was always the same. A time, a knock, a listener. One post stood out, dated 11 years earlier. Title: "It doesn't want to enter. It wants to replace." The author claimed the entity was incomplete. It needed witnesses. It needed acknowledgement. Every knock unanswered strengthened it. Every listener shaped it. At the bottom of the post was a final line. "If you hear it long enough, it learns you." Daniel closed the laptop. At 2:41 a.m., the knock came from his keyboard. Daniel stopped running. He returned to Baltimore. The building was still there, though the windows were boarded and the front door chained shut. No one was inside. No one had lived there for years. Daniel broke in. The hallway felt familiar, like muscle memory. He followed the sound, not knocks now, but breathing down the corridor to his old apartment. The door stood open. Inside, the walls pulsed again. The air smelled of bleach and something sweet and rotten. Handprints covered every surface, layered and desperate. The thing waited in the center of the room. It looked almost finished, its face now at eyes. Daniel stepped forward. "You want me?" he said. The thing tilted its head. "I'm done listening," Daniel whispered. The knock came once, from Daniel's chest. He knocked back. The room screamed. Light shattered. Walls collapsed inward. The thing folded into itself, screaming in Daniel's voice, clawing at him, trying to fit. When it was over, the apartment was empty. Daniel was gone. 3 weeks later, a new tenant moved in. The apartment was cheap, too cheap. At 2:41 a.m., the knock began again.